Starcraft fans, RTS fans, there's a new competitive RTS game out right now and it's free. Stormgate officially launched August 5, 2025, and it's made by developers who worked on Starcraft and Warcraft. As a huge Starcraft fan, I'm giving you my honest review. The good, the bad, all of it. And is this game power overwhelming or power underwhelming? Welcome to Thrift Shop Gaming, where we review free-to-play games and games under $5. If you like budget-friendly gaming, subscribe. I know there's been a lot of controversy around this release and mixed reviews. I've never touched Stormgate before launch, so I'm not here with tons of beta impressions or older versions. I'm gonna be here with a completely fresh perspective, basing everything only on the official launch as a completely new player. And I'm here to answer, is this a free RTS game worth your time right now at this moment? Since our channel focuses on budget-friendly games, I also played on a lower spec build to see how it runs under modest conditions. What is this game? What is Stormgate? Stormgate is a real-time strategy game where you build bases, train units, battle across different factions that are very clearly inspired by Terran, Zerg, Protoss. The setting is post-apocalyptic with a 3-episode campaign and at the moment a 1v1 multiplayer game mode as well as bot matches. I'm coming in with some RTS experience. You know, to be honest, I still boot up Starcraft Brood War for some tower defense games, some used map setting games, or some fun fastest map games, so my hopes were really high for this game. In this review, I'll cover the story, campaign, gameplay and factions, as well as the multiplayer experience and the pros and cons for all of them. Starting with the story and campaign. If you want a really deep, rich story that gets you really immersed, to be completely honest, this isn't really it. At least not yet. For me, the campaign didn't really pull me in with that magical touch that Starcraft did back in the day. Maybe it's me sounding like a boomer or nostalgia talking, but because the story seems very familiar or kind of repurposed in a way, or maybe because not all of the different faction campaigns are finished, I still think that the story and campaign can use some work. It's decent, but not too spectacular. The good news is, it's early and there's still tons of room for growth and development. In terms of the campaign, I thought it was okay. Being mainly a Starcraft player, there were some features that actually really stood out to me. Some features include the hero units being able to pick up gear and items. They're also able to gain skills and level up different skills through each playthrough. I'm a really big MMORPG fan, so this feature seemed pretty interesting and I think there's maybe room for growth there. I haven't really played too much Warcraft, however, I don't believe the gear stacked up, and so I didn't really get that same kind of feeling of amassing items or gear progression for a bunch of slots on a character like in an RPG that honestly I really love, but I still think that that was a really interesting take and feature in the campaign. So for a free opening campaign, you know, it is just the first few episodes specifically for the advanced tech human race, but just the whole theme of, you know, advanced tech humans versus alien threat is something we've seen before. So I'm more curious to see the future episodes and campaigns for the Infernals and Celestial factions. Alright. So overall, I would say the story and campaign is okay, but I think there's a lot of room for growth. Next up is gameplay. This is where I think the Stormgate focus can really be seen. Now, to be honest, it's a tried and true, real, actually competitive RTS game at its core. One thing that I really enjoyed for the gameplay was I can sense these quality of life changes in terms of the quick build hotkeys, made for a better quality of life gameplay in terms of normal RTS games. To To be honest, most of my reference is going to be from old school Starcraft, so having some features with the hotkeys, like being able to build units from a menu versus going to each individual building, or having workers auto gather once they're built, are really cool features that I thought were pretty cool for the genre that I really enjoyed. One of the biggest, most unique features about Stormgate is the feature where you fight over the Stormgate, the map events, where you fight over control over a specific area of a map. And if you are successful, you normally get some kind of special units. I think it added some variety. However, I did notice that in most of my matches, whether it's coincidence or not, but whoever won the first or second Stormgate usually ended up winning the game. And a lot of the games lasted 6 to 10 minutes, making it pretty snowbally, at least in terms of the online. Alright, next we'll go into the factions, starting with the Vanguards, or the human race, kind of like Terrans. And to be honest, I felt like out of all of the races that I tried, and again, you know, coming in as a very casual, fresh player without really looking or reading too into kind of the styles of the factions and just trying to play off a first impression, I think the Vanguard class seemed to be pretty familiar and generally pretty well done. I felt like I was able to kind of just hop right into it, build, and actually won a couple games, just coming up with some basic strategies that I felt, hey, I'm gonna choose this range unit, build it fast, go on the aggression, and it seemed to work out. But overall, I felt like it was the most kind of comprehensive and easy to understand class. And for the most part, I felt like I truly understood, you know, being able to have a pretty good game plan for this class. Alright, now going into Infernals. So this class looked pretty cool, and I'm assuming this is the inspiration off Zerg. So one thing that I saw happening but didn't really understand essentially is they had a mechanic similar to Zerg where you can have, it looks like a creep, but it's like fog that extends out, or smoke. So that was a feature I didn't really seem to understand too much going into just game straight up. That wasn't really easy to understand right away, and I also wasn't clear in terms of kind of the benefits. So to be honest, it's probably just me not really knowing much about the faction or really looking into reading everything, but just playing. But you weren't really limited in where you have to build on the creep like in StarCraft, but it did seem interesting and something that I would want to kind of explore more. Now, next we'll go into the Celestial, and this is the Protoss-like race, which I really wanted to love because I've always been hardcore Protoss main in StarCraft. But one thing that I was pretty confused on needing to build for this class was the pylon type of buildings actually ended up powering up units, and it wasn't really mainly used to have supply to max out your units. And one thing I didn't really understand was that the pylons, when you upgrade them, actually power up your units. And so this felt extremely unclear to me at first, and I didn't even know that I had to power up my units that way. And so that was really interesting. Also, it was really interesting that a strat, I guess, is you can actually make your Nexus fly around the map and build out the worker gathering units into different areas. So there's kind of a lot going on with this class, but to me, as much as I love Protoss and that kind of vibe, this class seemed to be the most honestly kind of confusing. I feel like a lot of the mechanics weren't something to easily be able to understand. Again, just playing off of the very first 1 or 2 games without really reading anything. In terms of the factions, I'm really curious to learn more about like the story and lore behind the other factions other than Vanguard. Alright, now moving to multiplayer. Honestly, this is where I struggled. After playing the campaign and bots, which I had some pretty decent fun, I jumped into the 1v1 matchmaking since that's really the only online mode they had to play with other players at the moment, and I honestly really didn't have much fun. I kind of got destroyed. And I'm someone that honestly, I have a generally strong understanding of the game and having a game plan, as well as I've trained APM when I was like 5 years old, trying to keep up with my older cousins. So I feel like generally I have some pretty decent experience in this genre. However, I will say I feel like the current player base floor feels really high. Maybe it's just matchmaking. However, when I queued up my first few games, I was already facing opponents that were level 20 or 30 that it's very obvious they're extremely skilled or spent many hours into the game. I even faced some, I know for sure they were Smurfs at level 1 because they had some serious skill, pumped out tons of units, they were kiting at like perfect range and busting out tons of units early while I was still level 2 or 3. And you know, maybe I just suck, or maybe I haven't taken the time to really learn too much of the mechanics. However, you know, thinking back at what I really enjoyed for my own personal taste for StarCraft was a lot of, you know, those 2v2 or 3v3 maps. I also enjoyed playing fastest modes, also use map setting games are the things that kept me coming back to StarCraft. So having really that fun experience in all of those different game modes, I think were something that I really personally enjoyed so very much. However, given that this game, as of right now, just has that 1v1 experience and really focused on competitiveness, the whole kind of 1v1 experience felt very tryhard, especially because I'm sure there's people that put in tons of hours. This game does a great job at attracting competitive RTS players, so unless you're someone willing to invest a good amount of hours into learning mechanics and matchups and you're really coming at it as a free-to-play casual experience, I feel like currently multiplayer can be a bit rough. That said, for players, you know, seeking for that high-level competitive environment you enjoy, strategy, enjoy 1v1s, being fully mechanical, and you're not dissuaded by putting in hours to get really good, then I think this game delivers in that aspect. As for me, I'm more of a casual player, and I don't think I'm currently at the place where I'm willing to clock in tons of hours to play very competitively. So I'm hoping for future 2v2, 3v3 modes with friendlier matchmaking. And part of what I really loved about Starcraft Brood War was fastest maps or 2v2, 3v3 modes, and even those fun used map settings. As of now, I can't really say the appeal is there for that more casual player base that doesn't want to grind 1v1s or have such a competitive environment. Here are my overall thoughts and recommendations. If you want a deep single player RTS story campaign mode with a deep and enriched story or being very immersive, I can't fully recommend Stormgate yet for that. I feel the lore and world building aren't fully there yet. And if you're also someone that just likes more casual RTS modes like co-op or 2v2, 3v3, or having fun game modes, then you may also feel the same. But however, if you're someone really serious about the competitive side of RTS, I think this is a game definitely worth checking out and just playing. You know, it is free. Or if you're someone willing to really dive deep and want to spend a lot of hours improving your skill and getting better in a competitive RTS game, I think that's an option for you as well. Or if you're just a really high skill player looking for a challenging multiplayer 1v1 environment, this is a great game for you. However, if you are a more casual player, you want kind of a fun experience, different game modes, or kind of want some fun balanced matches without such a big learning curve, this might not be for you just yet. I know they have a lot of plans to release a lot of game modes. However, again, I'm just reviewing based off of the official launch. Overall, Stormgate 3 has potential, but right now its main focus is on the competitive 1v1 side, which may or may not be for everyone. But hey, it's free and I enjoyed playing bots for a bit, and I really enjoyed a lot of the quality of life upgrades in the RTS genre in terms of the hotkeys. Would you give it a try, or will you end up sticking with some other RTS game? Let me know in the comments, and if you want more free to play or under $5 game reviews, subscribe for more future videos.